Okay, let's unpack this. The NFL offseason is officially hitting that crucial phase. Mandatory minicamps are wrapping up right now across the league, and that means training camp, the real ramp-up towards the 2025 season, is staring us in the face just a few weeks away in late July.
It really is the perfect transition point, isn't it? Teams get their first full look at the roster on the field. In these mini camps, you start getting initial reads on who's healthy, and you can see how those major off-season changes, especially coaching, are actually starting to look in practice.
Exactly. And there's just a ton of information swirling around right now. So our mission for this deep dive is to take the stack of current reports you've pulled together, everything from early fantasy analysis and coaching breakdowns to injury updates, previews of those key position battles, insights into the long shot undrafted free agents, and even some player perspectives shared online.
Right.
And just extract the most important nuggets, the insights that really matter as teams kind of fine-tune before things really get serious.
Think of it as your shortcut to being well-informed on these early storylines. We want to, cut through some of the preseason noise and give you the key players making waves, the big questions teams are wrestling with right now, basically based on what these sources are telling us.
Okay, let's jump right into it then. We'll start with some of the immediate takeaways and the player health headlines that are already emerging from these early June workouts.
Yeah, you always get important updates from these first on-field sessions. One that immediately stood out from the reports is the situation in Detroit. Their entire offense is facing, perceived downgrades, according to some analysts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not only did OC Ben Johnson leave and Kevin Zeitler sign elsewhere, but one of the absolute best centers in the NFL, Frank Ragnow, surprisingly retired.
Wow, Ragnow retiring is massive. That's not just a player loss, that's like a foundational piece of their offensive line identity just gone. How significant are these losses together, according to the sources?
Well, the consensus in the reports is that losing Johnson's scheme genius, Zeitler's veteran presence, and especially Ragnow's elite performance at center is a significant hit. It's really impacting how evaluators are looking at the entire Lions offense heading into 2025. Pretty much everyone on that offense is getting a slight downgrade based on these factors.
That makes sense. And beyond those personnel losses, we're already seeing injury concerns pop up before training camp even starts, like Bears TE Colston Loveland, who reports say is unlikely to be full go for camp due to a shoulder issue.
Right.
It's not framed as long-term, but missing key reps in June and potentially early camp. I mean, that has to sting for a young player trying to make his mark, right?
Absolutely. Every rep is crucial, especially early on, establishing chemistry and mastering the playbook. Anytime a player, particularly a developing one, isn't practicing, it definitely slows things down.
Yeah.
And quarterback health is always paramount. We've got a couple of notable QBs dealing with issues already mentioned in the sources.
Okay, who are we looking at there?
Well, Colts QB Anthony Richardson is sidelined with a shoulder injury. Now, while they're hoping he'll be ready for the regular season, this situation is being discussed as potentially opening a door for Daniel Jones.
Interesting.
The reports suggest this could even give the coaching staff an excuse, quote unquote, to consider a change if Jones looks sharp in camp while Richardson is easing back in.
That's unsettling, I imagine, for Colts fans. You want your young franchise guy healthy and getting all the reps. And then CJ Stroud in Houston also have shoulder soreness.
Yeah.
His coach downplayed it, which is, typical, but the sources are cautioning that any shoulder issue for a quarterback can be perilous, reminding us of past situations where initially minimized injuries turned into bigger problems down the line.
Exactly. You hear soreness and hope for the best, but given how reliant a QB is on shoulder strength and health, any mention of it needs to be watched closely. It's just one of those positions where even minor issues can snowball.
Right.
And speaking of things that can change quickly, the potential for player movement is already impacting perceived value.
Like with the Broncos running backs, you mentioned that.
Precisely. Look at R.J. Harvey. His current fantasy stock, according to the reports, is directly tied to the, let's say, weak competition, currently in Denver's backfield. But the sources explicitly state his value would be harmfully impacted if veteran J.K. Dobbins signs there after visiting. So just one veteran addition could completely reshuffle that depth chart and shift everyone's outlook.
It really highlights how fluid things still are, even here in June. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and zoom out to one of the biggest stories of the offseason. The widespread coaching changes. The reports you compiled highlighted, 21 offensive coaching changes across the league this offseason? That's a huge number.
It really is. It means nearly 2/3 of the league are potentially looking to reshape their offensive identity in some way for 2025. And the sources go into quite a bit of detail on how this is expected to impact specific teams and players, and it's fascinating to see the projected philosophical shifts.
Okay, let's start with Chicago. Bring in Ben Johnson as OC. He gets to work with QB Caleb Williams, the top pick. What are the reports saying about that pairing and the expected changes there?
Well, the consensus is that Johnson is a major upgrade, obviously, but the reports also note that Williams is still a rookie and, will need work. The sources point out this significant contrast between working with rookie Williams versus veteran Jared Goff, who Johnson elevated so much in Detroit.
Sure.
And let's be honest, the 2024 Bears offense was statistically very bad, like 28th in points, dead last, 32nd in yards, so there's immense room for improvement.
Definitely. Where specifically might we see Johnson's influence show up in the scheme?
Reports suggest looking for shifts in play action usage. Williams was apparently efficient on limited play action throws last year, and Goff, under Johnson, led the league in PA rate.
Right.
There's also speculation about personnel groups, maybe more 3WR sets given their depth with DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, and rookie Luther Burden, but that depends on the development of Burden and Colston Loveland at tight end, especially with Loveland's current shoulder thing.
Okay, gotcha. Over in Cleveland, OC Tommy Rees comes in, and the projected shift is really dramatic. The sources say they're moving significantly towards a run-first, conservative, ball control offense, projecting their run rate at 44.2% for 2025, despite leading the league in pass rate last year at 65%.
That's a huge philosophical pendulum swing, isn't it? It's been noted by veteran players like guard Joel Bitonio, who mentioned the ball control emphasis this offseason, and drafting workhorse RB Quinshon Judkins in the second round definitely reinforces this expected shift, regardless of who wins that messy quarterback battle there. The identity is expected to be grounded firmly in the run game.
Wow. Okay, Detroit, losing Johnson, brings in John Morton as OC, limited NFL play calling experience, but he was an assistant under Johnson. What do the reports say about the impact there? Are they expecting continuity or?
Well, sources don't project a major shift in the run-pass split itself. Morton's familiarity with Johnson's system means you might see similar core concepts. However, the key change they're really flagging is the interior offensive line after Ragnow's retirement.
Yeah.
The likely new starters, rookie Tate Catledge and second-year Christian Mahogany, have only one combined NFL start between them.
One, wow.
Yeah, so that interior O-line stability or potential lack thereof is going to be a major factor for the entire offense. That's the big question mark.
That could totally change things up front. Meanwhile, down in Houston, optimism seems pretty high with OC Nick Caley and QB CJ Stroud. Reports suggest Stroud is meshing well with the new first-time OC.
Yeah, Stroud himself has spoken about wanting more autonomy, pre-snap, changing protections, audibling things he felt were maybe lacking last year. He specifically said he feels he can put my swag on it with Caley's support.
Okay.
And sources project a slight uptick in passing volume, which makes sense given they also added receiver talent like Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel in the draft. It sounds like Stroud is pretty excited about the potential for more freedom.
Good for him. Jacksonville hired Liam Konis as head coach, and he's expected to call plays after his success revitalizing Baker Mayfield's career in Tampa Bay last year. How is Trevor Lawrence reacting to the new system?
Lawrence sounds very positive in the reports. He called it unlike any system that I've learned before and appreciates that it has, quote, a lot of answers and gives players the tools to succeed.
Nice.
He's expected to be full go after shoulder surgery, which is critical, of course. And analysts are viewing him as maybe a top late-round quarterback value, especially with the addition of rookie receiver Travis Hunter. The combination of a new system he likes and more weapons seems promising for him.
In Las Vegas, the Raiders paired HC Pete Carroll with OC Chip Kelly. I mean, that just screams run the ball, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Carroll is famous for his Seahawks commitment to the run, and while Kelly's history is a bit more varied, he's expected to call plays with a clear run-leaning identity.
Yeah.
The reports point to their first-round pick of running back Ashton Jeanty as confirming their run-leaning desire. The sources even float the possibility that Jeanty could push for the league lead in carries if game scripts allow.
Whoa, league lead. Okay.
That tells you everything about the expected volume on the ground. They want to run it.
New Orleans brings in Kellen Moore as head coach, and he's expected to call plays. Moore is known for adapting his scheme to his personnel. What are the players saying about the system?
Quarterback Jake Hanner described the system as designed to get the quarterback easy completions early, using RPOR concepts and quick throws like Bubbles RPOs, the quick throws. And beat writers covering the team seem to echo this, calling it a pure progression system that focuses on higher percentage throws to generate explosive plays rather than just constantly bombing it deep.
How does that potentially impact players like Alvin Kamara or maybe Juwan Johnson?
Well, that kind of shorter, high-percentage passing attack could really solidify the reception volume for Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. Definitely could. And it also offers potential spot value for tight end Juwan Johnson. They even signed veteran Artie Cam Akers recently, adding another piece who could benefit from this approach.
Gotcha. The New York Jets hired Aaron Glenn as HC, who's defensive-minded, and he's giving play-calling duties to Tanner Inkstrand, who's a first-time NFL play caller. Inkstrand talks about wanting a fast, physical, aggressive, explosive, and detailed offense.
That's a lot of adjectives.
Yeah.
But despite that description, the reports project the Jets to run quite a bit, estimating a 47% run rate for 2025. They also note the passing game still heavily relies on Garrett Wilson, with pretty rough depth behind him, which might temper those expectations for consistent explosiveness through the air.
Right, makes sense. Out in Seattle, Clint Kubiak takes over as OC. His previous stops suggest a run-leaning philosophy, which would be a change for the Seahawks after ranking kind of low in team carries last year.
This seems to align perfectly with new HC Mike McDonald's priorities. Sources are saying running the ball is non-negotiable under Kubiak.
Non-negotiable, okay.
Yeah, and everything supports this. Adding a converted tight end to fullback in Robbie Ousts, comments from RT Abe Lucas about an old-school mentality, it all points to them wanting to pound the rock and establish an efficient ground game led by Kenneth Walker. Sam Darnold's familiarity with Kubiak from his time in San Francisco last year is also mentioned as maybe a potential plus for him stepping in.
Okay. Finally, Tampa Bay, where Thad Lewis is the new OC. Amazingly, this makes him Baker Mayfield's 9th offensive coordinator in 8 NFL seasons. Just wild. Lewis is a rising star, though, a first-time play caller.
Yeah, the good news is the reports indicate Lewis isn't expected to make, significant changes from the successful system Liam Cohen ran last year. Mayfield himself appreciates the continuity, noting he's taking more ownership and that the offense still runs through the run game and Mike Evans.
But despite that continuity, the sources also add a note of caution. They point out Mayfield's 2024 production relied on an unsustainably high touchdown rate. What was it, 7.2% versus his career 4.6% in yards per attempt. What does that imply?
It basically suggests that even if the play remains similar, some regression in terms of raw fantasy or just box score production is likely, just due to the natural variance of scoring touchdowns at that higher rate. Something to keep in mind when projecting him.
Gotcha.
And Chris Godwin's return from his dislocated ankle is also flagged as important for that receiving group, which includes Mike Evans and rookie Emeka Egbuka.
That's a dizzying number of changes just on the offensive side, driven by coaching philosophies. It really underscores how much team identity can shift year to year. Speaking of competition, let's talk about the specific position battles that are starting to heat up as training camp gets closer.
Right, and quarterback battles are always the headliners. Cleveland's is definitely crowded with 4 guys potentially vying for the job. Veteran Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and rookies Dylan Gabriel and Shedder Sanders.
Flacco has the obvious experience edge, especially coming off leading them to the playoffs last year. But the reports mention a potential path for Sanders, even though he surprisingly fell to the 5th round after being projected much higher. What makes the sources think he could potentially start week 1?
Well, it seems to be based more on his upside and college pedigree, even if his landing spot wasn't ideal draft-wise. The reports are less about him definitively winning it now in June, and more about the opportunity existing due to the crowded and, frankly, somewhat uncertain room around him.
Okay.
It's less about current performance in minicamp reports, and more about projecting what the team might want to see develop in camp. It's a path, not a guarantee.
Okay, interesting framing. Another void is in New Orleans, with Derek Carr's sudden retirement creating a big opening. It's down to sophomore Spencer Rattler and rookie Tyler Show. What are the reports saying about the nuances of this particular battle?
Sources note the real-world competition is entirely dependent on how they perform head-to-head in camp. Rattler didn't exactly seize the job last year when he got chances, and Show was drafted 40th overall, so there's investment there. It's a genuine evaluation period.
Right.
And here's a funny, slightly weird insight from the sources. Apparently, if you look at Madden analysis or discussion, Show is suggested as the preferred starter due to his upside and a similar rating to Rattler in the game.
That's hilarious. Using Madden ratings to break down a real QB battle. Okay.
Offensive line battles are less glamorous, as you mentioned, but critical. Kansas City has a big one at left tackle after struggling there in the Super Bowl. Exactly. And trading Joe Thuney also changes their interior dynamic. But left tackle is key. Free agent Jalen Moore, who got a significant contract, and first-round rookie Josh Simmons are competing for that crucial spot, protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side. That's a really vital battle to watch them.
Definitely. The Baltimore Ravens also have an open spot at left guard after Patrick McCarry's departure.
Yeah, reports suggest 2023 seventh-rounder Andrew Voorhees may have the inside track there, competing against Ben Cleveland and Garrett Dellinger. Again, less fanfare than QB, but vital for keeping Lamar Jackson clean and the run game going.
Sure. Beyond the line, where else are significant battles flagged in the sources? What caught your eye?
Well, running back in Denver is wide open. Second-round rookie R.J. Harvey is competing with Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin. And like we said, adding J.K. Dobbins after his visit would only intensify that competition.
Right.
The Buffalo Bills need better play at corner. Veterans Dane Jackson and Tre'Davious White are back to compete with rookies Maxwell Harrison and Dorian Strong for the spot opposite Christian Benford. That's important for their defense.
Las Vegas also has a cornerback competition heating up after Nate Hobbs left town.
Yes, multiple guys vying for snaps there, including returning vet Eric Stokes, 2024 draft picks, Decamarion Richardson and Jacorian Bennett, and rookie Darian Porter. Lots of names in the mix. Over in Cincinnati, there's a big question mark at edge rusher because of contract disputes involving sack leader Trey Hendrickson and unsigned rookie Shamar Stewart. That potentially opens up opportunities for Joseph Osai and Miles Murphy to prove themselves.
And the Chargers' cornerback room is almost entirely new after Christian Fulton left and Asante Samuel Jr. isn't signed yet, right?
Correct. Free agent Dante Jackson and second-year players Cam Hart and Tarheeb still will be competing for significant roles there. It's basically a complete reset at that position for them this offseason. And we can't forget the specialists. The Ravens even have a kicker competition after releasing the legendary Justin Tucker, with rookie Tyler Loop and UDFA John Hoyland fighting for the job.
A kicker battle for the Ravens after having Tucker for so long. That's truly wild to think about.
High stakes indeed for those guys.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to some high-profile players who are looking to bounce back after injuries cut their 2024 seasons short. OTAs and minicamps are their first big steps in that comeback process.
Exactly. These are crucial checkpoints. Players like Vikings QB J.J. McCarthy, who missed his entire rookie year with that meniscus tear. Sources highlight his favorable situation in Minnesota with a strong supporting cast, good receivers, good tight end, and an upgraded offensive line. They also point to his elite college PFF grade. His play, assuming he's fully healthy, is going to be a huge factor whether the Vikings can exceed expectations this year, like that 8.5 win total people talk about.
Chris Godwin, the Buccaneers receiver, is another name mentioned, returning from that nasty dislocated ankle. The team clearly believes in him, giving him a 3-year extension despite the injury.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
The sources note his remarkable consistency, never grading below 75.7 in PFF over his career, and having that truly elite season back in 2019. He's a pillar for that receiving core, alongside Mike Evans and the rookie Emeka Egbuka. His health is definitely key for Baker Mayfield and that offense.
Chris Olave, the Saints receiver, had his season cut short by not 1 but 2 concussions, which is scary.
Yeah, a tough situation for sure, but he's already an established young star with over 1,000 yards in each of his first 2 seasons. The reports highlight his strong PFF metrics from 2023. His yards per route run, contested catch rate, yards after catch, all really good.
Right.
His return to full health is deemed crucial for the Saints offense, especially with a new, potentially rookie quarterback leading the way. They need him out there.
Definitely. On the defensive side, the Dolphins are hoping to get their dynamic edge rusher duo back. Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips both returning from torn ACLs.
Yeah, big injuries for big-time playmakers. Chubb was having a career year before he got hurt late in 2023 with an 88.8 PFF grade and 70 pressures. Just dominant. Phillips was seen as an ascending star with a 90.1 pass rush grade back in 2022 before his own injuries.
Wow.
Getting both of those guys healthy and back to form would immediately give Miami a truly dangerous edge rush unit alongside promising young player Trop Robinson. It's a significant potential boost for the defense if they can stay on the field.
It really puts into perspective how much roster construction depends on players successfully recovering from major injuries. Okay, let's pivot now to the guys who are really fighting for their NFL lives right now, the undrafted free agents or UDFAs. They face much longer odds than drafted players, obviously.
And that fight makes them fascinating to track in camp every year. The sources highlighted a few specific UDFAs who caught attention this spring. Sean Dolak, a linebacker for the Rams, was a first-team All-American in college, described as a tremendous block defeater and reliable tackler. Pretty standard stuff for a good linebacker prospect.
Yeah.
But what really stands out, his spectacular ball skills, including multiple pick sixes last year.
Multiple pick sixes from a linebacker, that's definitely not typical. How might that help him make the roster?
Well, on a defense needing playmakers at linebacker, having a guy who not only plays the run well and tackles reliably, but also have a knack for interceptions and can actually create turnovers and score, the report suggests he could contribute instantly because of those rare traits for the position. He's got a unique angle.
Okay. Corey Kuttner, a running back for the 49ers, is another UDFA name that came up. The Niners already have a pretty crowded backfield, though. What makes him stand out in the reports?
Despite the logjam, he's noted for his plus vision and ability to consistently get more than what's blocked for him. And the numbers back it up. He forced a remarkable 82 missed tackles on only 204 carries last year. That's insane.
Wow.
The sources specifically call out that HC Kyle Shanahan is known for using an onslaught of backs and isn't afraid to lean on guys regardless of draft position if they produce. Kincher's ability to break tackles could definitely catch his eye in camp and preseason.
Devontae Davis, defensive tackle for the Colts, also got a mention. What's his profile?
Yeah, described as an active run plugger who thrives dispatching blockers. He apparently has quality athlete traits for his size, over 6'2", 300-plus pounds, but with a sub-5 over 40 time, which is moving for that size.
Yeah, that's good.
He's seen as a good scheme fit and potential depth piece for a team that could use reinforcement on the defensive line behind their starters like DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart.
The Texans have a center, UDFA, Eli Cox from Kentucky, with extensive SEC experience. What's the word on him?
He's flagged as an athletic and well-balanced interior lineman, specifically called an angle sliverage master. With the Texans overhauling their O-line, having a technician like him who played over 2,900 college snaps against top competition could allow him to push for a backup spot or maybe even more if he really impresses. Depth is needed there.
Okay. Kyman Rucker, a linebacker for the Ravens, another UDFA highlight.
A throwback stand-up rusher
Huh.
from North Carolina. The reports mention his relentless play and his speed-to-power conversion as key traits, backed up by impressive pass rush production with 91 pressures over his final 2 college seasons. On a Ravens defense that needed more pass rush depth last year, he's definitely a guy who could make the roster by showing he can consistently get after the QB in preseason. Fits their mold.
For the Giants, wide receiver Daquan Felton adds needed size, the report said.
Yeah, he's a tall receiver, nearly 6'5", with decent speed, ran a 4.50 40. The Giants receiver room could certainly use more size on the outside, and he's described as a specimen who can win at different route depths. He brings a physical dimension they might be looking for.
Afton Chisholm III, a Patriots receiver, got comparisons to some legendary Patriots receivers. That's high praise.
He did. Highlighted as a shifty slot receiver and drawing comparisons to guys like Wes Welker and Julian Edelman in the reports, he was apparently the heart and soul of his college offense with high volume and was incredibly aggressive after the catch, forcing 84 missed tackles.
Wow.
That kind of scrappy, high-volume YAC ability is definitely something the Patriots have valued historically in their slot receivers. Could be a fit.
And finally, Wande Owens, a defensive back for the Bills. What's his story?
Described as a do-everything safety with freaky athlete traits, high vertical and broad jumps, good speed. What stands out in the reports is that he rarely missed tackles when playing near the box and has demonstrated ball skills. He's seen as potential ideal moldable ball of clay for a defensive-minded head coach like Sean McDermott, someone who could develop into a key reserve or maybe even more down the line. Lots of athletic potential there.
It's incredible to think about how much fight these UDFAs have. They truly are playing for their professional dreams in these next few weeks. The intensity must be just
Off the charts for those guys. Every single rep matters.
Okay, let's throw in a surprising, a slightly quirky nugget that came up in the sources. We're talking about real-world training camp drills and how they compare to, of all things, Madden video game drills.
That's right. It was kind of funny. There were discussions online in places like Reddit threads about which Madden training camp drills are notoriously easy or difficult for players in the game.
And the consensus in those discussions, drills like the rushing attack in Madden are apparently super easy. Some players in the game threads even joke they could literally put my controller down and still get the highest score.
Yeah, just run straight ahead, basically. Meanwhile, there was widespread, almost universal agreement that the defensive back drills in Madden are impossible. or ridiculously hard. Players talked about struggling constantly and even trying to cheat by using slower offensive players just to make it manageable.
I find that absolutely fascinating because it connects back to the real world so clearly. What does it tell us about, the actual position?
It really highlights just how fundamentally difficult the job of a defensive back is. In the game, even in a simulated environment, mastering the technique, understanding routes, the precise movements required is portrayed as incredibly challenging.
Right.
It makes you appreciate the skill and difficulty NFL defensive backs face on every single snap in real life. It's easy to take for granted watching on Sunday, but Madden players are apparently getting a virtual dose of reality check there.
That's a really cool connection, a surprising way to think about the complexity of one position just through a video game drill.
Definitely provides some perspective.
So that's our deep dive into this stack of early off-season reports. We've connected the dots between those initial injury concerns popping up, the major coaching philosophy changes that are set to redefine how teams play offense, the intense position battles that will shape rosters, the hopeful comeback stories of high-profile players, and even those long-shot UDFAs fighting for their professional lives.
Yeah, these early summer insights really do offer a crucial peek behind the curtain, giving you an idea of the identities teams are trying to build and the potential roles players might step into as we head towards training camp in late July. Keeping these storylines in mind will definitely make the next few weeks and the start of the season much more interesting to follow.
It absolutely sets the stage for the drama of camp and the preseason. So, to leave you with a thought building on all these coaching changes we discussed, all aimed at redefining offensive approaches, which offensive philosophy shift that we talked about today do you think will end up having the biggest surprising impact, maybe positive or negative, on a team's success this season? Something to chew on.